Welcome to Speak Longevity to Me podcast. I am here with the very lovely Leyla Naghizada.
Nice, you got that. That's a tough last name to
It's a good
pronounce.
one. I'm going to read a little bit about her and then we're going to get right on into it. Leyla is the creator of the Align Journal, which is a great journal, by the way, as well as the visionary behind Being Luca, an emerging concept explaining more conscious and connected ways of living. Through her own lived experience with overwhelm, identity struggle, survival mode, and the search for meaning, she has become deeply interested in subconscious conditioning, nervous system healing, mindfulness, human potential, and the process of becoming a more deliberate and conscious creator of one's life. Leyla is currently developing the vision for Being Luca as a land based regenerative community rooted in wellness, education, conscious living, and deeper human connection. She is passionate about creating conversations around what it means to live with greater presence, coherence, and the deeper connection to ourselves, nature, and each other. Welcome, Leyla. That's an amazing bio. You've done so much, and I can't wait for us to dive in, get a little bit deeper into all the lovely things that you're doing. So, I'm going to start off first because, like, I've obviously known you for quite a while, and I remember about a decade ago, you started talking to me a lot about this conscious living. I remember you told me you were going to a 10-day silent retreat, which I was very in awe about, wondering, how are people actually doing this? But more so, I really respect it and I've seen your journey the last decade, probably even longer. But for me, watching you study and really get into the realm of going inward. So, in your own words, can you share with us a little bit more about that journey?
Oh my God. I will do my best to keep it concise because there's so many different routes to take to go with. But essentially, about, I don't know how many years is that? I'll be 42. So, like over 20 years ago, when we first moved to Canada, I was born in Baku, Azerbaijan. When we moved here, I was 18. That catalyzed my awakening with a book called Conversations with God, and that by Neil Donald Walsh. That was like something in my spirit just came online, and everything in that book was like answering these questions that I guess I had. I wasn't even conscious that I had them about why am I, who am I, why am I here, what's the purpose of it, all of this. I've always like been that type of soul or person, I guess, right, in this body that questioned all of that, but I wasn't aware that I was even questioning it. I didn't have that awareness at the time. And so that book put me on a journey of attempting to answer these questions, right? These existential questions. And layer by layer, I started to realize how much negative conditioning and programming I had that was creating disharmony within me. And so, all of the different avenues of searching for answers, whether it's through meditation, darkness retreats, psychedelic medicine, like all of that was part of attempting to one, see what's the cause of my suffering, and then attempting to also crack the code, right? Like, of how do I actually elevate my human experience out of suffering? Because that doesn't seem like it's meant to be that way. It's just what I specifically chose as a soul to incarnate into a family that was quite dysfunctional in many ways, and as a highly sensitive being absorbed all of that into my wiring, into my body, into my mind. And now I've been trying to like unwind all of that and understand how to rewire my mind, how to rewire my nervous system, how to get myself out of that. We were talking before we started filming about like the embodiment of our true nature, right? Because I've had those experiences through my awakening journey of touching that state of peace, of uh, feeling, knowing myself as beyond the body, beyond the mind. But when it comes to like everyday living, I can't sustain that state. I can get to it at times in meditative states, in nature specifically, right? It's like I'm there. But then when life happens, my quest has been, how do I actually embody that which I know myself to be? I remember who I am, yet I cannot keep that frequency and vibration throughout my everyday moments. Um, so that's been the quest, right? That's been the journey of everything I've created. And with Being Luca, it's what I've come to believe is that the environment plays a huge role in
Mhm.
supporting our embodiment, right? So if we live, let's say, in a urban environment with so much outside that's out of coherence, right? Like the there's not much nature around us,
Yeah, a
and
lot of
a
stimulus.
lot of stimulus. Exactly, it doesn't help us to actually
Hmm.
slow down our way of being, because everything is so fast paced in the modern world, right? So that's what I've been attempting to think and bring that vision into life of how do I to in order to create that coherence. I feel like actually rooting yourself physically in nature can be such a helpful what's it called, hack in a way, right?
Yeah.
Because your body gets to co-regulate with nature already by just your pace of life, like your lifestyle. um, and I would like to do that in community with others, because it's just that much more fun, right?
Yeah, of
And create new
course.
systems together. Like, I don't claim to have all the answers, but what I do know is the modern society is just based off of fear-based programming, and that's why the world is what it is. So personally, I've been doing my best to upgrade that paradigm and go from fear-based, separation-based consciousness to unity consciousness, right? Christ consciousness, living from the heart.
Mhm.
And it all sounds lovely, but what does that actually look like moment to moment when you are being challenged in your everyday life? I'm a parent, that brings you face to face constantly with your shadows, right? So that's been the training ground for my soul through these everyday moments to actually embody the true nature that I know I am. I've
Mhm.
touched it, but to bring it into the body. I don't know if I answered your
No, you
question,
are. It's great.
but
Yeah.
yeah, that's
No.
like a summary of the last 2 decades of consciously trying to like understand who I am, and then and be able to embody that which I know I am.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's actually how we connected
Mm.
is, I mean, you guys probably would recognize her from all of the YouTube and everything back in the day with, was it
Lexi
Luxie
hair feels
hair?
like a
It's
different
like a
lifetime.
lifetime ago,
Yeah.
but you and I really connected a lot on this tapping into the nervous system regulation. And
Mm-hmm.
no, I admit I'm not very deep into the conscious work. It's obviously an area that I could probably do better, but the reason I have you on here as well too, this is speak longevity to me, part of longevity, which is leading into my next question,
Mm-hmm.
is just about that. We
Yeah.
are inundated, so many of us high performers, or we're chasing, and it's like, what are we chasing? We're in these environments constantly being stimulated, electronics, technology, and it's like you're almost like going through the motions of life without
Mm-hmm.
actually living. But
Yeah.
truly longevity is about connecting with nature, being at peace with yourself. But how are we going to get to be at peace with ourselves and our nervous system are so deregulated and we're in
Mm-hmm.
survival mode?
Mm-hmm.
Most of us are in survival mode and we
Yeah.
don't even know it until life slaps you in the face. So
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
that's sort of where my next question
Mm-hmm.
is the mindset. It's such a powerful component of
Mm-hmm.
longevity, and one that I'm always in awe of. When we talk to a lot of centurions or we read pieces on them, they're so dialed in on that.
Mm-hmm.
And how are you able to do all of this deep work while you're balancing motherhood, life's challenges, moving countries, all of this?
Yeah, it's tough. I'm not gonna lie. Right? There's no need to sugarcoat it. It's tough. It's
Mm-hmm.
waking up and practicing what I know to be true and what I preach in a way, which is coming into the presence, into the present moment, right? Like literally moment by moment. It's not a concept, it's not a theory. It is, where is your focus right now? Because if I can bring myself truly into the present moment, I can almost like talk to that fear, those fearful parts of myself that are living in survival mode. I think of them as either a frightened, like a puppy, or a child,
Mm.
right? And so the journey is essentially reparenting yourself, reparenting not even reparenting, actually. You're reparenting the inner child, but in general, I feel like consciousness work to me is the soul or the divine part of yourself becomes the divine father and the mother of the mind.
Okay. Oh, I like the way you just said that.
Because that's what I've realized. It's
Mm-hmm.
like we know we're not the mind, right? We know we're not our thoughts. We know we're not our emotions. We know we're not our body. And yet, what I experience is at times I fall into that trap of actually being the identity, the personhood
Mm.
as an avatar, right? My sense of self gets entangled
Mm-hmm.
into the personhood that has a story, that has all this wounding, and yet I know that's not who I am. It's a part of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
The person Leyla, the avatar that I'm playing, the role that I'm playing as a mother, this, that, the other, all of that is a part of me, but I know that's not who I am. And so the work for me, moment by moment by moment, is catching when how I experience myself gets almost like distorted into the lens of I am now this character, I am this person with a story and the pain. And the work is when I notice that I'm there and all these thoughts and all this stuff creates the suffering, it's just pausing and be like, who am I? And that question for me snaps me out of that false identity, right? Because that's not who I am, it's who I'm being right now in a way. Like I am the
Okay.
expression of the divine
Got
as
it.
Leyla, but that's not my true essence,
Okay.
right? My true identity is I identify as just awareness, consciousness. That's what I am. I'm expressing myself as Leyla through this unique perspective that I'm having, right? As one aspect of source. But that's not my true identity. My true identity is pure awareness. That part of me does not experience pain. That part of me is not capable of experiencing pain. Only the ego, the personhood, can feel pain. So if I'm in the moment, if I'm suffering, it's because my sense of self, like the lens got switched over, and I'm now seeing myself and my life through that lens. So the practical work is in the moment catching that. So that's like a skill in and of itself to be able to see, oh, I've fallen into the ego's trap again. And just let me come back to the present moment, reorient my body in space. Where am I? I out loud start speaking because that helps that frightened part of me to calm down, because you can hear yourself in a soothing voice talking as if you would talk to a child, right? Hand on heart, right? Like that is the part of the nervous system regulation, like just tapping, or sorry, I'm touching the mic, but like
That's
tapping
okay.
on your body. Tapping really helps, like emotional freedom technique, right? And speech, I start to create more like safety in the moment if I start feeling like, okay, part of me is starting to get anxious or reactive again. So it's literally parenting yourself as if you had an actual physical human child in front of you that was feeling afraid for whatever reason, or is reactive, or in some kind of a tantrum or breakdown, right? Catching that and then soothing yourself back into safety. So the reorienting part that helps is naming, for example, I don't know, 5 things you see, 3 things you hear. So coming back to your physical senses, because a lot of the time when I've experienced a lot of childhood trauma, I've lived most of my life in my head. And so the
Okay.
journey has been about actually, am I in my body right now, or is my consciousness fully in my head? So when I can fully arrive in my body and I orient to the present moment, there is no danger here and now, right? If I'm feeling anxious, it's because my mind is somewhere in the future. That's what anxiety is. You're projecting yourself into a fearful scenario, and your mind doesn't know the difference. Your brain literally doesn't know the difference. It actually thinks there's danger, and that's when the survival, like fight or flight sensations come up. So that's the work, Jesse. Like I don't have a magic pill. That is just moment to moment work, is catching yourself, bringing yourself back into the body. Movement helps so much, right? Actually moving your body, going in nature, physically walking or doing whatever feels good, yoga, stretches, um, breath, right?
Yeah.
Connecting with your breath. I forgot to say that. Like, so when I come into the present moment, it's like I catch my breath. What is the pace of my breath? And then just over and over, bringing
It's all the
yourself
tools
back.
that
It's
like all the people from
tools.
longevity biohack, but
Yeah.
everybody else
Yeah.
they're kind of familiar with. So then would you say, is this for a particular individual, or is this just for anybody? Anybody who's like in the modern world trying to survive as a parent, as a entrepreneur, working professional. Who we are isn't really who we are.
That's it.
It's more that we are an ego-based version of ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
let's use being a mom for
Yeah.
example. When you are schooling your kids or being overwhelmed, that's not truly you being
Yeah.
like a tough mom, or it's a projection of maybe what's going on. Like, let's say you were worried anxiously about something happening. That something hasn't actually happened, but
Yeah.
it's based on your perception of childhood and your, I guess, unknown reality of things happening. So I talk about this because I'm trying to figure out a way to translate this into words. It's not really verbal. It's more like a feeling that you
Yeah.
get. Like for
Yeah.
me personally, I'm constantly in overdrive. My nervous system's constantly deregulated. I'm constantly in survival mode. And I know that a lot of the times I act from a place of that survival. And it doesn't actually mean that's reality or that's how I'm feeling.
Right.
And I often look at individuals, again, we talked about this before, who are, they seem to be so at peace and they're just navigating things so effortlessly. And I want to emulate that. I'm in envy of that. And I recognize that for me, I've always said if anything kills me, it's my stress levels. And it's not that I'm
100%.
physically stressed, it's that my nervous system can't shut off. And I'm constantly, maybe it's a people pleaser, maybe it's all of these other shadows of ourselves that we have. And as I dive deeper and deeper into the mindset and that aspect of the longevity sphere, which many of us, I mean, me included, being a scientist, we don't tap into that. We consider that the spiritual world. But if we look at the ancestors in many ancient cultures, that's part of how they survived and how they thrived. So it's an area that I don't know much about. I am fascinated about, but it still is an area that I'm still trying to navigate and get my senses too. So I appreciate that you're sharing a different lens to something that I personally have always been fascinated when we have these conversations. And I often leave thinking, oh my gosh, okay, that's a great way of putting at it. And the brain thinks about it for days and days on end.
Yeah. Because new perspectives, right? They help to, I think that's what evolution is. You know, it's like the experiences we have, the conversations we have, it's all data. It's like we're constantly updating our model of the world, right? Because that's what the brain is constantly doing. It is, it's constructing and predicting reality at the same time based off of past data that we've lived through. So that's what it's doing. So that's why when I started to understand this and realize it, I was like, okay, so then the only thing that makes sense is to reprogram your mind, right? Like update the operating system. It sounds nice and it sounds like, okay, that's all it takes. But the actual process of it is grueling, because it's not just saying a bunch of affirmations. Like your brain actually has to, we talked about this again earlier, right? Like you actually have to believe the things you're saying through lived experience. But if you haven't lived it, how do you actually get yourself to feel something you've never experienced, right? And that's, I don't have an answer to that. It's just a matter of doing like teaching yourself through micro moments, right? So for example, if we're talking about being in survival state, it's like a part of us doesn't feel safe, right? So for me, it's like I am safe, right? So it's that affirmation, or I am safe, or I feel safe, is slowly over time rewriting that experience. So again, when you come into the present, it's like, is there an actual danger right now? So you're teaching yourself through viscerally your body. It's like, is there danger right now? No. You're teaching your brain that even though a part of you might still be projecting based off whatever, wherever it got stuck in that trauma response, right? That in fact you are safe. And slowly, there is progression, right? I feel safer now that I did, let's say, a couple of years ago. Have I fully erased or rewritten that program of safety? I have not yet, right? So it's a process. I feel like maybe for some people it happens quicker. I don't know if it has to do with like our individual way of processing the world. The good news is that the brain is plastic and it can change, and the nervous system can be rewired, right? But it does, in my experience, it's not overnight. It does require consistency. and just being aware of those patterns and then interrupting them in the moment. And the more consistently you notice and interrupt the patterns, I guess the faster the actual rewiring happens.
Yeah.
But is there a timeline? Like I don't know if anyone can really answer that, because it's such an individual process that like our system has to,
it's with anything,
recalibrate,
like
right?
even exercise, getting healthy,
Yeah.
anything. It's all individual.
Yeah.
That's the beauty about the world.
Yeah,
We're all
it's like there are all these maps out there that we can attempt to put into our own life through direct experience, right? And that's why I think we live in such an amazing time where all this information's out there, which has its shadow, which is like overwhelming. Sifting through that and being like, hey, what part of it resonates with me? Can I take a piece of this? I take a piece of this. I take a piece of this, and then I put it through my direct experience, because that is the only way I found that things actually shift, if they do, is when things are not just theory and information, but when you're applying it, and then based off your own experience, then iterating and refining and kind of finding your own way through that map, right? Like others can give us the direction, but we actually have to take the steps and walk it, right? So yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. This is all like just sharing, right? There's no right or wrong. It's just perspectives, and that's what this platform is about, is people sharing their perspectives. So maybe someone listening can get a different lens as to how they hear things. It's not about, I always say on here that the whole point about this is not to necessarily, even though some of it will come across like this is my shared experience versus an opinion. It's not about opinion. It's meant to give education. It's meant to share, so people take from it what they like, and then they leave what doesn't serve them, type thing. So we're going to pivot just slightly, a little bit more personal in that. So you recently moved back to Canada from Portugal. So from your lived experiences, what are the differences that you notice in terms of lifestyle and quality of life between both?
I think it comes down to values and priorities, like as a collective. So as a sensitive being, I pick up on energy, right? So in Lisbon, where I lived, everything just felt a lot more aligned with how we're meant to live. So the pace feels slower, even though there are parts of Lisbon where, there's professionals and it's work and blah, blah, blah. But overall, the energy is like people just, I think, fundamentally understand that life isn't about work and accumulating stuff and getting accolades. People know how to actually relax. Like they're sitting in cafes, they're having their coffee or whatever, their espressos, the ocean, right? Like they're a lot more slow paced. That's what it felt like. And they value more connection, and it's not about the accumulation of stuff. It's my experience that in North America, it's just a lot more materialistic and accumulating things versus experiences, right? So that's my personal experience of North America versus Europe, is that the value system seems to be more in alignment with what feels like the right, not the right way to live, but that
it's just what works for you.
It works for me, yeah. And in general, I feel like that as human beings, like we are not here to just work and accumulate things, right? We are meant to actually enjoy our experience of living through the present moment, through connections. And so it feels like a more, I don't know, like a natural way of living, if that makes sense. For me, again, I loved Lisbon very much, and I would still want to be close to it. But ideally, the missing piece was still the aspect of like being rooted in nature, like where your lifestyle is actually, you open your door and you plant your feet in the soil, right? Like, or you work with, planting your own food or caring for animals, whatever that is. But so that would be the main differences between North America and Europe, is how I experienced the energy there.
I think most people can relate. It's probably why we're always running to Europe for vacation, but it's a catch-22. Like, as much as I love it, sadly, for business opportunities, we all run back to North America because that's where the business is at. And even my family, they don't get it. Like sometimes my parents are like, slow down, like you're working too much. Like, why would you choose to go back to Toronto versus being in the Caribbean? Like, it's just, you can, it's a different lens, and it's tough because in an ideal world, I would love to be able to go back and have the nature and live on the farm, but sometimes it's hard with the profession that you're in. But yeah, it's just, if we could have that everywhere, it would be great.
Yes.
But I think with growth in technology and advancements, it's
Mhm.
just fantasy at this point.
Yeah, we keep dreaming and
We keep
we
dreaming.
keep working towards that vision, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, like, for me, it's like I wanted this lifestyle. And now that I have it, it's like, well, I want to go back to where I came from
It's
because
just
it's,
the human condition,
yeah.
right?
Sometimes simple is what we ultimately,
Simple,
that's why
simple.
retirement, people when they retire, they just ultimately want simple at the end of
Yeah,
the day.
yeah.
So, in line with habits and
Mhm.
lifestyle, what is one non-negotiable for you? I feel like you kind of answered it by being able to go outside and ground, but
Yeah,
what's one thing that,
mhm. Yeah, I would say connection to nature, like just getting out of the physical. Like for me, my house or anywhere I live, it represents my mind, right? So it's like this box I'm living in.
Mhm.
And so for me, the second I step out of the house, somehow my perspective widens, right? And there's now, there's this whole world, right? So getting outside. Now, living in Canada, it's much harder in the winter to actually feel that connection with nature because we have all these layers like physically barricading us, right? So now that it's getting warmer, it's just so nice to be able to like actually put your feet in the
Yeah.
grass and like tactile, like feel it, right? I mean, you can still feel cold snow, but it's just not the same experience,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, I would say non-negotiable is getting out of the house and just being in nature, even if it is cold still. Like
Yeah.
still you can breathe the fresh air, feel the snowflakes on your skin, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it is, but just yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a mindset. Like, I obviously came back in the fall and, you know, living in Dubai,
Mhm.
being in like plus 50 degrees Celsius weather. I'm like, what am I doing? Being from Barbados, I'm like, what is this? But I really enjoyed, I felt like this year I had to really shift my mindset when I was here.
Mhm.
Like, I had to go back to Dubai in January, and I came back, and it's like I made myself a promise. And I think at the end of the day, it's how we as humans try to get through things. Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm going to try to embrace this
Mhm.
and start realizing that you can still be in nature in the winter. You're right.
Yes.
I obviously prefer,
Yeah.
like, there's nothing like right now, the weather is so
Oh, it's
nice.
so
Being
nice.
outside, it's like your mood boosts and you're just full of
Absolutely.
energy. You're
Yeah.
like back to wearing the summer wear. So
Yeah.
it is a challenge, and it's, you know, in the longevity space as well. Like, I've been in many conversations where it's people thrive in warmer weathers. That's
Yeah.
just, you
Yeah.
know, the SAD exists for a
Sun.
reason,
Yeah.
right? It's not just the sun, it's also about being able to like feel the soil. Even at night, the soil feels warm.
Yes.
So
100%.
yeah. So this one is a bit more in line with what you were originally talking about, but I wanted to loop back there after we, you know, blended it with a little bit of softness. Some people, they are uncomfortable, or maybe they don't necessarily understand the whole concept of tapping into your subconscious and trying to do the inward work. Like, I've encountered many people who are just content with life. They don't necessarily sell, and it's not knocking them. It's just that their frame hasn't been one where they feel the need to do that self development. And sometimes when you hear couples say, well, I'm growing, this person's not growing with me. And maybe it's that they just don't understand what that entails or what that means. What is one thing that you can share to those types of individuals? And I ask you this because you helped me a lot throughout the years tapping into that psyche and that mindset. Like, when I first met you, I didn't believe in meditation. I mean, I still can, or journaling, but you've made that impression on me, which helped change my psyche in a way where I was more open to caring about the subconscious. So what would you say to someone like that?
I mean, if a person that's listening, if they're content with their life, there's nothing to do, right? But oftentimes I feel like when the soul is ready to grow, our external circumstances or situations are gonna, we lose a job or loss of a relationship or you have health things come up. It's like when the soul is ready to awaken to its true nature, life is gonna start making it so that it starts as like little pebbles, and then if you're not listening to those, like if you're out of alignment with your soul path essentially, right, it will start getting louder and louder, trying to get your attention because you're not kind of not doing what you're meant to do, but it's like you're a little bit off track, essentially,
Yeah.
right? So life tries to get our attention by making it so that we can't avoid confronting what's out of
Yeah.
alignment, right? So it's kind of like if everything's working and you're cool, everything's fine. Nothing to say
Yeah.
to that person because they're obviously aligned, right?
Yeah.
But if something feels off, it's because it's just time to look within, right? It's time to look at the patterns that are showing up, because if the patterns are showing up and it's not how you want your life to be, it's because they are programs and conditions that are keeping you away from your true nature, right? So that's all it is. It's like you're living out of falsehood, lies, essentially. We all
Yeah.
have it. We've all been conditioned into false identities, false beliefs, false things that have nothing to do with life as it is.
Yeah.
It's just we've been sold a lie, right? And so I would say when you start going within through whatever medium works for you, meditation, journaling, psychedelics, I don't know, there's all these different paths. But essentially, it's like you start investigating your own thoughts. You're not just believing your thoughts as they are, but you start questioning them. You start introspecting and reflecting, right? When you start doing that, you will start to uncover and discover parts of yourself that are just wounded parts of yourself,
Yes.
fragmented parts of yourself
Yeah.
that are ready for you to bring awareness and compassionate love to them through understanding, through empathy, and then eventually start to bring yourself into a state of wholeness, right? Because we
Yeah.
walk around as fragmented bits and pieces of ourselves that have forgotten who we are, that are disconnected from our hearts because of the way society is set up, right? We are not taught as children who we are. We're not taught how to actually understand yourself as a mind, body, spirit, right? We're not, that's not
Yeah.
taught in schools. So it's normal and natural that the result, the byproduct of that is that we walk around as these disembodied heads that are disconnected from our bodies, disconnected from our heart, from our spirit. And so that's kind of what Being Luca would be the solution for, right? As the environment where we get to reconnect with our true nature, reconnect with nature, reconnect with like the lifestyle and the pace of life, and the rhythms would all like create a favorable environment, essentially, where you can, through the pace of life, have that spaciousness around you to actually reconnect and bring parts of yourself that you've maybe suppressed, repressed unconsciously. We don't do that on purpose, right? It's just the way the psyche works, right? Carl Jung said, I think I'm paraphrasing, it's like, until you confront your shadows, something along the lines like you're gonna call it fate, right?
Yeah.
But it's only because it's just the unconscious is driving the car, versus you as a conscious being now understand the shadow and working to integrate it. And I think it's a lifelong journey. I don't think there's ever
It's
like,
not ever. Yeah.
yeah, it's not like, okay, now I've fully integrated, now I'm whole, right? It's just a lifelong journey to continuously bringing awareness to these parts of yourself and bringing little by little yourself into an actual state of, I don't need anything. Like you
It's
just
more like in the
realize.
modern world where they say it's like your karmic lesson. You're going to have that karmic lesson happen to you over and over again until you're almost forced to stop
Yes.
and like face it. I'm just paraphrasing that in like layman's terms, like for those who aren't too familiar with this, because for me, I wasn't. I remember we had multiple conversations, and I don't know, like, you know, you're talking about until you're in nature, you're removed from it. It was when we were in Dominican. I was walking down the beach, and you and X actually, he stopped me, both of you guys. You're like, "Are you okay?" And then you sat with me after and you chatted. And you know, I'm going through my master's, I'm working full time, I was going through a breakup at the time, and it was my first shakeup where it wasn't about the circumstances itself. It was the first time that I had really thought, well, what's going on within me? What am I doing? Like, what's my karmic lesson that I'm being faced with all this?
Yes.
So I'm just trying to draw it back to a lot of the things that you said, because it's true. Like I wasn't necessarily looking for this life altering, renowned spiritual awakening. I wasn't doing psychedelics or anything magical like that. I just was in a place where I was removed from my environment. I was surrounded by people who helped me mentally get out of that. And I sometimes wonder if I hadn't, I mean, I'm sure the journey would have crossed at some point, but I hadn't been dialed into that. My circle at the time,
Yeah.
like I'm around academics all the time at the hospital, I'm treating cancer. I'm in survival
Different
mode.
environment.
I'm a
Yes.
different,
Yeah.
so that's why I asked this question, is
Yeah.
because sometimes you're not in a state where you have that opportunity to be disconnected. I don't know if it would have been different if I had had this conversation in Toronto when I'm in a crazy realm.
Yeah.
But I'd like to think that the universe somehow would give you
would
the
have happened. It
opportunity
would have
eventually
happened.
for it to
100%.
happen.
Yeah.
So that just goes back to your point that you were making about your environment being really important, which is what leads to my next question. I would love for you to share with us what is Being Luca and what is your dream for Being Luca?
Being Luca for me is essentially a physical representation of the way I think of what heaven on earth looks like. My version of heaven on earth is being in harmony with nature, so living in nature, where again, you are calibrated to the frequency of the earth, which is already in a higher state, right? Earth is a sentient being. She has a frequency, which is 5D consciousness. I don't want to get too much into it, right? But it is already in wholeness, already in oneness consciousness. It's not fragmented, it's not fear-based, it's already there. So when we are nature, like we're literally nature. We just forgotten that we are also just like the tree or the plant or whatever. We are nature. We are not meant to be physically removed from it. We are, how did we evolve? We evolved in tribes in nature, right? But then the insanity happened of industrialization or whatever, and we've forgotten that, and we've gotten severed from who we are. We are nature. We're not meant to live in boxes in the sky or in whatever houses. Like, we are meant to live with earth, as earth. So that's fundamentally what I see as the biggest shift, is returning to how we are. I feel that we're meant to live in nature, with nature, as nature, right? Rewilding ourselves. We are all the happiest when we can be bare feet, right? Maybe not everyone, but I think most people, we feel the most alive when we are like climbing trees and, you know, like just rock climbing or hiking.
You're not actually describing a tribe, but that's what I'm envisioning in my head.
Like that is what I think human, like a healthy human life, to me, in my understanding, is, where, like, what are you working towards? What are all this profession? It's funny, I see on Instagram now all the time this people, lots of people sharing the same thing, which is a reflection of where I'm at, I guess, right? It's like our age group, probably 40s or whatever. It's like, it's funny how when we were young we all wanted to be professionals and, you know, climb the corporate ladder, whatever, and now all of us just want to get a piece of land, get some chickens, and, you know, because we are remembering.
Joe and I talk about that all the time. Right? Like, everyone thought we were crazy because he and I were like, we just want to buy like a piece of farmland and have some chickens. Or like, that's what you guys want to do. I'm like,
that's the soul calling you back home. That's how I understand it, right? It's the soul saying, hey, like, this is not how you're meant to live. Again, my perspective. So that's why there's this massive movement towards that, because it's the soul just remembering how we're meant to actually exist. So that's one component of my version of heaven on earth, is you're in nature, and we are not, again, isolated on our freaking screens living these virtual lives. We are living with other humans, with animals, with life in the real world, not on Zooms and whatever. Like, again, that has a place. I'm not, you know, what's it called, making it like a negative thing. It's just, it's out of balance, right? The technology is meant to be a tool. It connects us kind of globally. Like, there's so many opportunities that would never happen if it wasn't for technology. However, it's just the scales are way off right now, right? So we use technology as a tool that it is, intentionally, to do whatever it is that you're doing in the world. But when your entire lifestyle is screen based and virtual based, and then your evenings are watching Netflix, or, and again, I'm not saying any of this with judgment, it's just, it's an isolated way of living. You are kind of like just in this virtual reality world versus like, what's the real world? The real world is this, where I can touch you, I can smell the flower, I can put my hands in the soil and have soil in my nails, right? Like I can plant the seed and then I can pick the fruit and eat. That's real world to me.
Yeah.
That's real. We can sit around the fire and have conversations and work through conflict and raise our kids and pass the kid to each other because I'm having a hard time. That's real world to me, right? So community. Um, so that is another piece of heaven on earth. And then creating systems and ways of being and ways of communicating that are, again, more heart-centered, more heart-based, of how do we communicate to each other, how do we do conflict resolution in a more evolved way, how do we tap in to, like, how do we open our channel to the source spirit that we actually are. And I think that naturally happens when, if we live in nature, our nervous system gets back into regulated state, when we're no longer in our heads. And I think that would probably take, for people like us that have lived in a chronic dysregulated state, it would probably take a couple of years to really recalibrate your entire body and your mind to, like, uh, connect with the pace of that nature operates in, right? It doesn't rush. Everything is just, everything gets done, but there's no this chaotic urgency state, right? So I think it would take time, but in time, if your nervous system had a chance to recalibrate to that way of living, naturally you would connect to your soul and spirit, because you're in a more expanded, open state versus contracted and like bracing yourself for some imaginary threat, right? Which is the survival state. So, and then because we would be connected to our spirit and soul, joy is a natural byproduct of that, because you are following your passion, following your excitement, you're expressing creatively whatever that you, however your soul wants to express itself through some, creative avenue. And everything can be creative. Even your business can be a creative output of your spirit, right? Whatever you're called to do in the world. um, I think, again, a byproduct of that is you are provided for. So you're already living, now you're in harmony and peace within. And then you have abundance because you are in alignment with your soul. You're doing what you're meant to do. And it's like an inhale, exhale. Life provides because you are doing what you're meant to do. So to me, Being Luca is the embodiment of heaven on earth, frequency of oneness.
Okay.
And
that's
it. And then, of course, like the practical part of that is you regenerate the land, and you, again, work, you become part of that ecosystem, right? Because humans right now, we feel like we're at the top of the ladder, but we're not. We're just one part of that, life kind of like we're out of symbiotic connection with earth. But if we were living with her and understanding her and working with her cycles through like permaculture design principles, and again regenerating the land, and it's just, you create balance and harmony in all aspects of life expressing itself. So I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, it does.
that
It's
is,
a big shift right now. I mean, it's not realistic for many of us to be living in that environment, because that's just not the reality. But it's where the longevity space in particular is moving towards, especially for vacations. Like, you're seeing a lot of hotels now translating into regenerative farming meets community as a whole. Even there's probably the best word that I could use to describe it is fragmented. There's fragments of it, like, you're seeing that a bit in Toronto. Run clubs are now making surgeons again. You're having their little communities that are connecting people. I heard recently that the Gen Zs no longer want to order online. They actually want to drive in traffic to go back to the mall because they want connection again. So I think we're seeing fragments of it, because for many, it's not, like, for me, it's realistic. Potentially for you, it could be realistic. Like, I can go back to Barbados, have my backyard, I pick off figs from my backyard. Like, it's not that unrealistic, but I'm the exception, not the rule. And for many people, it's sad that it's no longer the rule, that we, all the space in Toronto is being taken up with buildings and technology and 5G and all that. So it's as a whole, I feel like the world, like especially those who've amassed their fortunes,
Mm-hmm.
they're starting to realize that as they've climbed, it's like, well, we don't want this anymore. We want simple. They're flying to Costa Rica and buying land and building up, because I think
Yeah.
that it's like what's old is new again, and what's new is old. They're realizing this is not how I want to live anymore.
Yeah.
I want the simple. So
Yeah.
I think your idea, it's a matter of time before that becomes the norm again.
Yes,
I,
100%.
I would hope so.
1,000,000%. There is a search for deeper meaning
Yeah, they
beyond
want more.
what we were
People want
sold,
more.
right? We were all sold an idea of what success is, and I think more and more people with this global awakening that we're going through are questioning what that means,
Yeah.
right? And when you start questioning, I think everyone gets to that point of like, we actually don't need any of it.
It's crazy.
We really don't need any of it. We just need very little, right?
Yeah.
Like, that Maslow's hierarchy of
Yes,
needs, right?
hierarchy of needs.
It's like once you find what's the meaning, like what is it that brings you meaning in life, right? Which is, I feel like that's the soul mission or purpose. Like I'm still looking for that. For me, like creating this Being Luca, bringing that into existence, I feel like that is my mission. So I'm on the path to shift my uh, wiring, shift my mindset, reprogram myself, and then embody the frequency of that version of me now.
Okay.
So that I magnetize the pieces through effortless, like easeful ways, not through force and effort of the old world where you had to hustle, and like action is still part of it, but action without alignment is futile. It's just you're spinning your wheels and you're not getting anywhere. So the path that I've discovered for me is like, that's why the journal is called Align, right? You go on the journey to become a conscious creator, which is to reprogram your mind, rewire your nervous system so that you can embody the frequency of who you already are beyond the layers, right? Because there's all these layers of conditioning, and it's to me, maybe it's a lifelong journey, right? Of actually peeling and unbecoming, so you can become, so you can realize that you've always been underneath all that, what you already are.
Yeah.
You know,
I love the way you're saying all that. Like my brain is still processing, and I'm probably going to replay this podcast and process some more. So thank you for
because
sharing.
we already
that.
are that. It's just we've forgotten that, and it's like the journey is actually to remember that which we already are.
Yeah.
You know,
I think for many will be able to, or at least many that's in my circle and that I talk to, can resonate and appreciate that, because there comes a point where you just realize that it's more like you have that awakening. A lot of people have had that awakening, like I had it, and I thought I was going to die working as a radiation therapist, climbing the corporate world, well, health corporate world, and it's, to come so far to realize, man, I really want what I had when I was 16 years old, growing up on a simple island, had one TV channel, we were spent all of our time outdoors. Like, you don't appreciate it then. And it's not saying that everybody needs to have this. It's just what's an alignment for you. And align is the perfect word. That for many in the longevity space, this is what people are realizing is a huge part. And those who are truly dialed in, it's not about the technology and the toys. Like, the hyperbaric chambers aren't going to do jack all for you if your nervous system's deregulated. And if you ask most of us, we would probably choose having space where we can put our feet onto proper grass and eat from a fruit tree that hasn't been laced with glyphosates, and really having a community around us. Like, the pandemic taught us the importance of connection and community, and so.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to piggyback of what you're saying and to kind of really drive the point home, right? We already know this in the world based on the blue zones, right? That's how they live, which is why they have longevity, because they have community, they have meaning, they probably are a lot more connected to nature and all these different elements. So it's like we don't need to go searching for proof. It's already exists, right?
Definitely.
So it's just, again, going back to, I feel like, what is the most natural way of living?
There you have it. There you have it. Longevity at its best. So we're wrapping up. A couple more things. The first is that I'm going to do a few rapid fires.
Great. Let's do it.
Okay. Meditation or journaling?
I think journaling.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how you would answer that. I know this is rapid fire, but just as a sidebar, you didn't say this, but I'm going to say this. She has a journal called the Align Journal. I highly recommend, if you're listening, that you get it because it's amazing. I'm looking forward to heading to Barbados soon, and I'm taking that with me, and I'm
Yeah.
planning to like really dive into it. Music or art?
These are hard to answer because both have different, fulfill different needs. I say art.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Do you know, as I was putting these together, I genuinely didn't know which ones you would ask, which is why I'm also asking. Yeah. Dancing or long walks?
Dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you still salsa, by the way?
No, I probably should start.
Coffee or tea?
I'm going to say both because I love my coffee in the morning, but I love a nice tea in the evening. So it's like depends on the time of the day.
Yeah,
both.
Fair. Okay, that's a good. And last and final question. What legacy do you want to leave in the world?
I would love to leave Being Luca as a place where people come to remember who they are.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it's a portal where once you enter that portal, like because of the work that's being done there and the sincerity with which people come to truly remember who they are and embody that, that's the greatest gift I can offer to humanity, right? Because that space would exist, and it wouldn't just be one, like it's multiple locations kind of all over the world. So that would be the dream.
So building that community, but aside from that, I feel, and again, this is not, she didn't tell me to say this, and she probably has no idea I'm going to say this, and she's probably going to get mad I'm going to say this, but I'm going to say this anyways. Being Luca, building that community is your ultimate end goal, but your ability to be able to help people individually, coaching them and tapping into that is something that's so profound because you've done the work, you've done the studies of it, and 10 years later, she's still one of the only people that's able to help get me into states where I've been spiraling to get me out. So if anyone is listening to this and you're ever interested in working with her one-on-one, I highly recommend. Again, she's not, don't be mad I'm sharing this, but I actually think that I think that you know, it's not on your radar, but I really think that it's something that can really help people. Like it's helped me. I think when I was at my lowest, you were there, and then
I'm
again,
so grateful that I was able to be that mirror for you, right? Because that's what we are. We are just walking each other home. That's my favorite quote from Ram Dass. We're just there, just walking each other home, helping each other remember who we are. Everything is a reflection. So a reflection to me could be shadow, right? Showing you things that you haven't yet confronted or faced, or it's your own soul trying to like, hello, like wake up, this is the truth, right? And that's how resonance works. When you hear it, it like awakens something in you because it's already in you. It's just it's just remembering it.
You know, it's so crazy because in conversations with you, it always helps me tap in to do that inward, and I'm always left in a pensive state. But at the same time, it's like you have that uncanny ability to do that while also making me feel good. Like I leave all of our conversations, whereas I'm sure if you had therapy sessions or, you know, you're doing the deeper work, it's uncomfortable and you leave like wanting to cry half the time. I feel like you just have such a beautiful talent with that. And again,
thank you so much.
Like I know that you don't want me saying this. This is completely going off the bar here, but I really feel like I have to share that because what you're doing is profound, and it's probably not conventional in the longevity space. But then when you really think about it, the message that you're sharing, Being Luca, is the embodiment of what true longevity is about, as you said with the blue zones.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you so much for joining me.